I am here today with my new sewing machine for our sewing video follow-up. So I had done a series of videos a little bit ago. Well, a two-part video series where we talked about just different ways to sew on paper and do the sewing of the paper thing, and sew on tags and different ways that I use my sewing machine. It is by no means an exhaustive tutorial. There are lots and lots of very creative people that do lots of creative things with their sewing machines and paper for journals and cards and all kinds of other things. Today, we are just going to follow up with a few. I'm going to try and answer to the best of my ability, to the best of my knowledge, a few of your questions that you had. So I've got them here in my little handy dandy video notes journal. And so let's start. We'll try a few things on here, and I'll try to show you a few things on here as we go. The first question that I think we'll do is somebody was saying that the backside of their sewing was a mess, and what is that all about? And I would say that when you're sewing, so let's see, I've got my pile of stuff that we did over here, but here's a tag that I just was sewing around in the last video. If you flip it over, you know, your backside should look like that. If your backside of your sewing is a hot mess, like if there's lots of clumping, or if the front side, if you're doing a zigzag and the front side doesn't look like a zigzag, it looks like there's one thread running through and your bobbin thread is coming up through. If that's ever happening, 90% of the time, it's probably a problem with either your bobbin is loaded wrong or your tension is set wrong. And on most very standard machines, there's usually right on front somewhere, like either my other one has a dial, my old one had a dial right here for setting tension, or there's sometimes a knob for setting your tension. And sometimes when you're sewing on fabric, can be very different than paper. And even the different types of paper that you sew through can be very different. Like this is a little bit heavier cardstock. Or if you're sewing, I've done where I'm making like a piece for a cover of a journal, and I've got, you know, cardboard and like a corrugated cardboard, and then some layers of paper and some fabric and some cheesecloth and some more paper. When you try to sew through that stuff, that's a lot. You're asking your machine to do a lot at that point. So sometimes I would have to adjust my tension for that stuff as well. There's usually like a recommended range. On this machine, it's computerized. So each stitch has its, you know, I can adjust the tension over here. And so that's kind of a per stitch different thing. But I would say if the backside of your sewing is kind of a mess, I embrace it sometimes. In a journal that I made fairly recently, I had done just a ton of sewing in it. It was my, you know, writing scraps journals. And some of them had some like angry stitching where it was just getting loopy and my machine was not having it. And I kind of embraced it and I liked the way it looked. I didn't mind the messiness, but I mean, ongoing, that's probably not so good for your machine either. So it is a good idea to adjust the tension. And then sometimes, honestly, your bobbin can be loaded wrong. So it's maybe a good thing to just check your bobbin and make sure, make sure that your bobbin is loaded in there. And, you know, each bobbin on different machines loads in just a little bit differently, but make sure that your bobbin is loaded correctly for your machine and threaded through the correct way. And then sometimes even I'll, you know, if I'm having problems, I'll do my bobbin and I'll just rethread my top of my machine as well, just to make sure that like everything is copacetic. So there you go. That's my 2 cents on backside being a mess. Then somebody asked, what material setting am I on? What tension do I use? What needle do I use? Okay, lots of questions on the needle thing. So material setting, I'm not entirely sure. There really isn't a material setting on my machines. It's mostly based like what you're sewing through is usually your needle and what type of foot you have on. Right now I have a zipper foot on. Most of the time though, I would say 98% of the time, I just use my standard all-purpose foot that came with the machine. This one came with some new fancy ones, so I'm kind of like looking forward to experimenting with them. Frankly, I have never used a zipper foot. Well, okay, that's a lie. I've used a zipper foot a many moons ago, and when I used to sew different types of stuff, and now it has been many moons later, and I haven't used one for a long time. So we're going to use one today because that's one of the things someone suggested. But most of the time I just have my all-purpose foot on, and I just use an all-purpose needle. This one right now is just the one that came with the machine because I literally just got this a few days ago and have just been playing with it. Most of the time I just buy a standard needle. Someone asked, one of the questions was, do I switch my needle when I sew on paper versus fabric? No, actually, I do not. And nor do I switch my thing often enough. So I think I should probably be switching it a lot more often than I do. So my needle, will stay on there for many moons until usually I break it. I break it on something and then I have to switch it. So I should probably change it more often. If you notice that it's not, going through stuff as well, then it's probably dulling. But yeah, most of the time I don't change it out. I definitely don't change it when I'm sewing paper versus cloth, and I've never had a problem with that, fabric versus paper. And the only thing is I do have some sets of heavy duty needles. I have in the past changed out if I was going to sew on something like leather or do like multi layers of denim, but that's if I'm actually, I've never done that since sewing on journals and stuff. So if I were going to try and like make a leather closure or something like that, I would definitely switch to a heavy duty needle. And if I were trying to do a bunch of denim or something like that, like multi-layers of something really thick or canvas or something, maybe for a cover, then maybe I would. But I sew through, with just my regular needle, I sew through covers that have like bookboard and fabric on two sides, and it sounds like it's punching through cement, but it works. And and like I said, I haven't changed the needle, so that's my 2 cents on needles. I just use a standard needle and usually my standard foot, presser foot. Okay, next. Do I drop the feed dogs or not ever? Honestly, on my last machine I could not drop the feed dogs. On this one I can. I haven't figured out how to do it yet. I am not that sophisticated of a sewer, so I don't ever would. I would imagine I would need to know how and why to drop my feed dogs. So I know that is a thing, that you can drop them, and that you can, like when I'm doing freeform sewing, which this machine I can do freeform sewing. So you drop the feed dogs for that because you don't want them to go, they are responsible for feeding your fabric front to back. So these little guys down here, like, chunk, 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 and they keep your stuff going. Well, if you're doing free stitching, you want to be able to move all around and stuff. So then you would want to drop your feed dogs. But apart from that, that's what I know about dropping the feed dogs. Sorry if there's probably a wealth of other YouTubers that know way more about that. Let's see. So okay, so let's get on to a few of the things where we're going to try what some people have said. Okay, let's do, someone said, using your zipper foot to put on, so I was sewing on, let me get it here. I was sewing on this heavy duty, like tassel trim, right? And I was zigzagging it on like this. And it worked pretty well, but it is kind of hard because you get to these parts where the knots are, and then you have to like kind of jump over them with your foot. But then when she said zipper foot, I was like, duh, that's brilliant. So I've got another piece of trim, and this is tassel trim, right? So you cut the bottoms off. We'll do that in a minute. But it's got bigger knots, you know, right here. And so I've just got this little part here that I want to sew on. So let's just give it a whirl. Let's remember that Nikki is at a super awkward angle right now in order to get this shot working. Okay. And that I've never used a zipper foot before. And that I'm using my brand new machine that I'm still only slightly familiar with. Okay. So I think I dropped the foot just to the side of this, and I've got my needle. You can put the zipper foot on either this side or that side, depending on, so you can either be sewing to the left or to the right, depending on, you know, what you're trying to do, where your zipper's trying to be. And then I think I just go like this, right to the side of it. I mean, that makes sense. When I look at it straight, it looks like it's lined up for here. So let's just give this a go. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, and I'm trying to keep this top part lined up with my paper as I go, but really, honestly, yeah, that works brilliant. Normally, like, I'm a person that doesn't switch out my presser foot and needles and stuff, but I would switch out a presser foot for this for sure. If you were going to put any sort of trim on that had any sort of bulk to it, this allows you to sew right up next to the side. All you people that have been sewing for years, you're probably like, dude, I knew this trick a long time ago. This is old news. Okay. Look at that. That is fancy. And it's, that was slick. And it looks really nice on the backside. Sweet. Then you go like this with this trim, just in case you don't know, if you've never used this before. You pull this thread, and then your tassels are free. They're free. So now we've got a way better way to put that trim on. And you know, I could move that in further. I don't have to put it right on the edge if this is like way too much for you, sticking way too far out. But that zipper foot works fantastic. Thank you for that tip. Kathy D, I believe it was, that said that. Okay, Carol says, sew from the paper side through to the fabric side. Oh yeah, okay. So we had done, let's see if I can find it. I was talking about doing fancy stitches, right? And how if you try to do a fancy stitch just straight on paper, you don't get the definition because the paper's not strong enough. It has give, and so it just kind of smooshes together. But to solve that issue, I will put some fabric and do my fancy stitches along the fabric, and then you get the definition that you want, and it looks nicer on the back. Well, what she is suggesting is that, and I don't think I have any bright pink. I have a piece of muslin, so we'll just do this. Who didn't prepare for their video very well today? That'd be me. It's a Monday, guys, and I've already filmed another video. And it was a long, busy weekend. Oh, let's take the zipper foot off though. And put the standard, Nikki uses this every single day, foot back on. Bring my thread through. Okay. And we're gonna put this back in here so I don't lose it. Okay, so we are going to not sew from the, okay, here's the only trick to this. We're going to sew from the paper side through to the fabric side. So then to see if we can get that nice definition on this paper side. And then it should still show up nice on the fabric side. The only problem is if I have to bring the fabric slightly over the edge so I know that I'm going to actually be sewing onto it. But let's choose some fancy stitchery here. Let's go with Okay, let's go with 78, huh? That looks like some fancy stitchery. Okay. Here we go. Let's see if this gives us definition on the paper side. And still on the fabric side as well. Oh yeah, it's looking nice. See, because the problem is usually that everything smooshes together. But look at that. That did give us some nice definition. And on the back side, it still looks nice. So yeah, let's try one like this one where it had really small little, I've got a little bit of fabric left. Let's try one where it has like a lot of intricate little twisty turny things like that one was. Do I have that like square looking thing? No. Oh, 73. Let's do that one. That looks like it might be a thing. Kind of like that. Okay. Because, you know, when you have a machine that has some fancy stitches, it's kind of fun to use them. Okay, I'm going to go off the edge of the fabric, and we're going to go just on paper and see if there's a difference. We'll just go right off the edge. Okay. Okay, so here, up here, let's see, where's my camera? So I can make sure I'm showing you. Up here is where we were on fabric. So there's definitely good definition there. And then as it gets down here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it or not because it's kind of dark because of the way I've got this situated. But it definitely does start to fall apart a little bit in this little, like the flower, pinwheel flower part. And when you look at the back side, it definitely looks nicer on the fabric part than it does on the paper part. The paper part looks much sloppier and less definition. So that is a really good trick. I mean, those leaves, they look the same on the front as they do on the back. So yeah, that is a good trick. Solid. Okay. 2 thumbs up. Highly suggest. All right. Okay. Someone else said that they said if you don't like the way your stitches look like this, try using a bone folder to kind of press them down. So, okay, I did try doing that a little bit, like pressing through from the back side, and it does kind of smooth them. But, I mean, honestly, it's like fabric. I mean, it's paper. That doesn't seem to do much. Honestly, okay, here's ones that's just paper. It kind of feels like it is what it is. I was trying this before to see if when I was working on a project, and I was like, I don't know that that actually makes a difference. So I don't know. If it was you that told me that whole thing about try pushing it down. Let's see, I forgot to mention names on half of my notes. Flatten the back of the stitching on pages with a bone folder. I was trying to flatten them like that, and it didn't seem to make a big difference. But if you're the one who said that and I'm totally doing this wrong, then let me know if this is not at all what you meant and I'm just looking foolish doing this right now. It doesn't seem to make much of a difference. Okay, moving on, because that's just making me look foolish. Let's see. The next one was, how often do I clean under my machine? And I'm assuming you mean like in here. This I do more. Like, so you know how I seem so haphazard. Here we go. How I seem so haphazard about like my needles and my feed dogs and all that sort of stuff. I have learned, because I wrecked a machine, I have learned to clean and oil my machine on a regular basis. Most machines come with some sort of little like tool like this. It's got a pick on one end, and a brush on the other. And anytime I notice that this up here is getting dusty, I will get this out and just try to get some of the dust and the stuff out of here. And I will often open up the I will open up where the bobbin goes and take the bobbin out, and I'll dust and clean all around in there. And then I try to, on a fairly regular basis, you know, maybe once a month or something, I try to take this off. So most of them come with a screwdriver or something that'll remove, there's just a couple plates. And I'll take those off and I'll give it a really good clean around in there. If there's chunks, especially if I've been sewing with a lot of fabric, you know, if you're a fabric sewer, you probably have to do this a lot more frequently. Paper sewers, maybe not as much, but I've been doing a lot of sewing with fabric lately and fluffy trims and stuff. So then, you know, you're going to want to clean it out. Now that I've got this new fancier machine, I am definitely going to make sure that I stay on top of that. I have already looked up a video on how to oil the different parts of this machine. And so I will be staying on top of that as well, using their recommended oil, because this is an investment and you want to keep it nice for as long as you can, right? So that's how I clean. I would say I clean my machine probably at least weekly. I do the dusting in the right around here, but then like I said, about once a month, I take it apart, oil it, clean down in here and everything. And then the last one was, how do I use the cone behind my machine? So I think I showed you that I was using a cone, like a thread like this. And, you know, honestly, most people's machines won't fit this. This is a serger cone, I believe, is, you know, like what these would be called. I liked it because it was way more economical for, I use a lot of black and I use a lot of cream colored thread. I have a ton of colors of thread, but I use a lot of black and cream. So I will buy these bigger cones of cotton because they're way more economical. But the problem comes that how do you put it on your machine, right? So my old machine back here just had a little thing that stuck out, and you put your thread on and there's a little cap, right? Well, the stick you put the thread on was only like this long, so it wouldn't work. This would just flop off and fall around. So I figured out a way to kind of ease that problem. Now this machine threads right in here, and so it has this little thing I put my thread on, and then it's got this cap that goes over and that goes back down. On this one, you can click it and make this stand up, right? So you can leave the top open and then it all threads over here. However, still, look, here's the top of that, right? Let me go like this so you can kind of see what I'm doing, right? See how tall this is and how tall that is? Yeah, there's a bit of a difference. So if I put this on here, I can't put a cap on it, and it's just going to go flop, 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 and it's going to be a big problem. So even though I can make this one stand up, I still can't make this fit. My machine now feeds through here this way, and then, you know, up and down. My old machine, like a lot of machines, have an external one like this or like this, right? And then it feeds through and around. So what I did was I would take, I have this little, I think it's a little votive holder from IKEA that I've used for like paint marbling on my fingernails and all kinds of different things. And I would take this and put the cone upside down in it like this. And then I just put it behind my machine. Can you see back here? There's my face. Blah. A super close up of the side of my face. So I would take it. Let me get the thread. So the thread. And then I would just bring it up and over. On my old one that had the little stick that stuck out here, I actually would just take a bulldog clip, put it on there, and feed it through the hole on the bulldog clip, and then wind it around and through, and it would just come up through that little clip, and that clip gave it just enough tension off of the spool to then go through my machine. And that's how I was just a simple bypass for that. Now this one, because it's this like slicky enclosed thing here. I can do the same thing, and I forgot to grab a clip. So here we go. We've just got a little binder clip. And I could do the same thing. I could take it through, probably on the edge on this one, since it feeds this way, and take it through the edge, through both of the little clippy part. Oh, come on now. Right? Well, let's see. There. I would probably put it down there. So let me do this. So find a little place that you can put, depending on how your machine clips or works, but you can find use a binder clip or a bulldog clip, and that's just going to give it tension from behind to come up through something, and then I would just thread it through my machine like the normal way. And instead of pulling it off of here, it would be sucking it from back there, right off of that thing. And it honestly, it works really great. As long as, you know, what I would say is like find the direction that your regular spool wants to feed from, and then figure out a way to put the clip on to get it feeding in that same direction. And there you go. Then you can use it. You don't even have to have it inside of something. These cones are big enough that they'll just stand up on their own back here. So I can just stand it up back there and it'll just feed off of there and come on, and it'll just keep feeding. So yeah. So that's how I use the cone thread, thread the cone on. And like I said, sometimes you can get these on Amazon, or you find them at garage sales or something for super cheap. And then it's really economical because it's, cheaper usually to buy this, and like in cotton. So anyway, those are the questions that you guys had, I think. Let me check. Someone asked about doing the beaded blanket stitch like I did on some, oh my gosh, needle books a while ago. However, I am kind of in the middle of a pain flare right now, and so trying to show you that with my hands would probably put me in tears, holding that little needle for that long, trying to show you, and I'd probably start getting shaky and not be able to do it very well, and it just wouldn't be a very pleasing tutorial to watch, and you really wouldn't learn anything except how my hands suck right now. So but yeah, that's it. Okay, so guys, I hope that this has helped you. I hope if you're one of the ones that had a question that I answered it to the bestest of my abilities. Like I said, I am by no means a specialist on the sewing thing. But there are lots of tutorials and channels and people who are. Also, I'm just passing along the knowledge and the information that I have. If you have additional questions or anything else that you think I might be able to answer, or if there are other things you'd like to see me sew or try to sew, or, if you're the person about the flattening stitches and I was just looking foolish trying to do it the wrong way, certainly leave comments down below and I will continue to answer your questions and interact with you there. Sometimes it's easier to just do like what we did today and show you or try things in a video. So if you do have questions, leave them below. And like I said, I'll either make another video or we'll talk about them in an upcoming video. But yeah, thanks for joining me again today for this little follow-up, and I will see you guys all again very soon. I've got some fun things planned in the next few videos here. I had to take a little break for some illness, and now I'm back doing some things. I got my new machine, so I had to play with that for a little bit and figure it out. And I do have a new computer coming too, because that one that needed to be replaced. Upgraded, and so I'm gonna have to do some file transferring and things there too, but luckily on that front I'm married to a guy who does tech for a living, so that makes that easier. He doesn't do sewing machines for a living, but he does tech. So that upgrade will be easier to deal with. Anyway, guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope that if you have a sewing machine, even if it's an old one, go dig it out. If your mom has one in the back of her closet and she's not using it, and you're like, or your best friend or your sister or something, your aunt has a old sewing machine, you don't need anything fancy, guys. You don't need anything fancy. All you need is a straight stitch. Most machines will do a straight stitch. You can find new machines fairly inexpensive for under $100 here in the US. You can find them at Walmart and stuff. A lot of times you can find them at thrift stores or garage sales now that it's getting warmer here. Tis the season of garage sales. So look for people's old machines there. And I just encourage you to try sewing some stuff, sewing on paper. It adds such a cool, unique twist to things. And then do what I do and just get out some fabric and some paper and stuff and just try different stuff, right? Here I got my new machine and I just sat with this piece of cloth for a while and tried a bunch of different stitches and adjusting tension and stuff. So just do it. Just play around and see what you can do. You can probably do way cooler things than me. So anyway, guys, I will see you again very soon. Take care. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, whatever time it is on whatever side of this globe. Clearly here it's, bright sunlight out there. So it's middle of the day. It's lunchtime. Anyway, I digress a whole lots of times. And you guys are probably clicking off by now. If you're still here, hey, way to put up with my insanity. So have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, whatever time it is, on whatever side of this globe of ours that you live on. And until I see you guys all again next time, stay safe and healthy. I hope that you are all doing well and staying crafty and trying out some new things, or getting outside your comfort zone, or just getting outside and taking a deep breath of some fresh air. And I will see you guys all again very soon. Stay safe. Take care. And God bless. Bye-bye.